Hey guys, this is my first video in a little while, and I wanted to show how I was dealing with my recent weight loss. As of today, I lost about 28 pounds in just over a month, so I'm really happy about that. And I'm really happy about that. But I wanted to deal with a problem that kind of came up, and that is that none of my clothes fit. So I went through my wardrobe and I was able to find a bunch of clothes that some were the size lowers and I was able to get into, and some I just couldn't wear anymore. They were too big. And some of those were clothes that Shari had just recently purchased for me. I really liked them, and they're stylish and they're comfortable. And it just made me sick to think I had to get rid of them, throw them away, or just not wear them. So anyway, I went on YouTube and I checked out a couple of videos, which I didn't think were all that great, but it gave me a good idea, and that was how to take in my own shirts. So I've done a few of them. They turned out really well, and this video is going to be about how to take in the shirt for when you lose your weight when you're on the good health program that I'm on. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll go from there. This is the setup that I have to do my sewing. It's actually Shari's sewing machine, but she's graciously let me use it. And it's a pretty basic setup, although it's a very good machine, better than most maybe, but any simple machine would work because I'm using just a simple stitch. So, but what you will need is some needles, a measuring device like a ruler, a pen to do some marking, and also you'll need bobbins and thread and just some basic sewing. The first thing that you want to do is you want to get your shirt and you want to turn it inside out. Now there's different ways to do this in terms of marking it or adjusting it. A lot of times some of the videos will say to put the shirt on. That's not a bad idea. I've done this enough times that I know about what I need to take off, so I can just go ahead and measure and do it. But for your first one, I'd recommend that you put the shirt on, having turned it inside and out, button it up the front, and then if you have a friend who can then kind of pinch in the sides and get an idea of how much you need to take off, then that's great. It helps you out a lot. And you can just use a set of pins to mark where that is. I've actually done it a slightly different way. Now that I've done a few, I know that I need to take approximately 2 inches off of these shirts that are extra large shirts, and that gets me down into about a regular. I'm sorry, I had a 2 extra large, not an extra large, and then this brings it down to a large, extra large size basically. So the other thing to consider is that as you take in the sides, that's great, but you also have to adjust the sleeves. And you don't take off the same amount in the sleeves as you do on the sides because there's a tapering effect on the sleeves themselves. And if you're not careful, you'll make the sleeve opening too narrow, and then that will wind up being way too tight for you. So I'll go ahead and show a little about how I adjust and measure up on the sides. Okay, once I've identified the measurement that I want, and in this particular case, I'm going approximately, I'd say just under 2 inches. So it's about 1 3/4 from the edge. And I fold the shirt along the crease, along the cut section of the inside. And there's always a fitted area or a trimmed area. So, so I come along and then I put in these needles on the line that I want to cut. Most shirts have a vertical line, and it makes it really easy for you to identify where you want it to be. The other thing is that I do is I always match up the ends of the shirt so that it is very well identified, and when you finish that line, that sew line, it will not have an uneven appearance and look kind of weird. So by doing that, I think you come out with a better looking result. So I put the two ends together, the edges. I got the line that I'm working with, and then I put the needle in sideways, not long ways, to where I'm going to be cutting. There's a reason for that I'll explain later. Okay, so that locks in that location of the shirt. Okay, so that's and then I'll do that all the way up the line, and I will continue that on the sleeve with a slight modification, which I'll explain in just a little bit. I've already done all of my needles, all my pins, and a couple of things that I did is, once again, I lined up the edges really good, and then I put the pins about every 4 inches or so. You might be able to do less distance or more distance depending on your need, but I followed this one main line that I was going to sew up to where the sleeve joins, and then at that point I came in and I measured about, and this is about 2 inches off the edges here. Then I came in and measured off of the edge of the sleeve approximately 1.5 inches. Now after I measured that point and marked that point, I got a ruler and I drew a line between the first sew line up and then from that point where the sleeve joins all the way to the edge of the sleeve. And that will give it the tapered effect that I was looking for and comfort. Now this is the second side that I've actually pinned up. The first side was done, and I put the shirt on to check my distance on my sleeve, and it was a little tight. I was doing about 2 inches, so I backed it off about to 1.5 inches, and then it was perfect. So this is an example of how the pins, I hope you can see it well on the camera, how the pins are lined up along that edge, and that's the edge that I'll sew. So now the shirt is ready. I've tried it on, it fits good, and it's ready to for me to sew it. I've got my machine set up, and I'm using a thread that is as close to what is actually in the stitching of the shirt. So if it's a white thread, I use a white thread in the machine. In this case it's a red, and I got a red thread set up on the spool and a red thread in the bobbin in this case. So you want to do that so that when you finish up and there's the thread showing, the stitch showing, it will blend in with the shirt and it will be what you want. And basically at this point I can go ahead and start sewing, and the only other thing you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure you choose a stitch that you would like to use. On my other shirts I use a straight stitch right at the line that I marked, and then after I finished that one stitch I would come back and put a second line about 1/8 or 1/4 inch from that to help secure that fabric, and then I would come and cut it. When you first start, you want to start on the fabric about 1/4 inch already into the fabric. And as you use your pedal in your machine and it drops down, you want to hit the reverse button on it to bring it back to the edge, and then proceed along that line and just feed your cloth nice and easy. As you come up to a pin, if you want to, you can pull the pin out before you sew over it, or just slow the machine down and go carefully over that pin, or else the needle could hit that pin and actually bust the tip off of it. So you want to be careful. It depends on just how good you are and your confidence in your machine, and the type of pin and the type of needle you use. So the finer the pin, the finer the needle, the less chance of that happening. Alright, so let me run this line up here, kind of show you how I'm working it, and I'm feeding the cloth in, and I'm working that line the whole way up. When you're sewing, you want to be sure it moves both sides of that fabric. If you don't, it will distort the stitch, and you'll have an uneven stitch, and it'll look kind of weird. So you want to move the whole cloth along, and that means that you have to move more of the cloth on the right side or on the left, depending on which side you're doing it, because of the bunching of the fabric itself. So just kind of gauge that as you go along. I always like to back up the needle just a little bit when I hit the armpit or the arm where it connects to the body of the shirt, because it just seems to secure it a little bit better. And then I roll down the needle into the fabric when I reach my spot. To turn the shirt, I raise the arm or the pressure foot and I roll the fabric. So now I can start sewing at the level of the line on my sleeve. So that works out pretty good, and yet the needle stays exactly where it was when I stopped. Okay, now that I've sewn up both sides and I ran a second stitch to secure the first and prevent excessive fraying, I'm going to take out my very special sewing shears, and these are never to be used for anything but cloth. Never to touch metal, never to touch paper, only to touch cloth. I have been instructed thusly. So what you'll do now is you'll come back and you'll just trim on just the outside of that last stitch. Just cut it nice and easy, carefully, and then do both this side and the other side, and then turn the shirt back outside to the outside and put it on, and you're good to go. All right, I had the shirt turned inside to the inside, outside to the outside, and I put it on, and I don't know how good the video is getting this, but it's really it's great. It fits good. It's a lot tighter, and yet it's still as loose as I wanted. I could have taken it in more if I wanted to, but the lines are good. There's no the connections at the edges of the sleeve and at the sides are really tight, and no one would ever know that I took this shirt in, and I'm about as amateur as you can get with sewing. So anyway, the good thing too is as I lose more weight and get into better shape, I anticipate shrinking my body more, and I believe that I can actually sew this shirt up again, alter it again, and go down to, let's say, a size large. So I'm excited about that possibility. And once again, I love these clothes, and so I hate to get rid of them and have them unused. So anyway, I hope you learned a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I certainly did. I can do this in about 30 minutes without interruption, roughly. And so my goal is to do 1 or 2 a day for the next little while, and then have my shirts converted over to my new size, and we'll go from there. So thank you for your time watching. I hope you liked the video, and I'll put another one out there as soon as I can.